This movie is beautiful. Like I will say that and I said in the chat as soon as this was picked, we have to have lens talk at a certain point, because all of the shit about this being shot on those F07 Zeiss Panner lenses that they bought, the same ones that NASA took to the moon, which by the way is one of the reasons that people think that Kubrick faked the moon landing, is because he bought
That's part of it.
he bought
Actually.
three of the,
He didn't?
he bought 3 of those lenses from Zeiss out of the 10 they made, one of which Zeiss kept, and 6 of them they sold to NASA.
Mhm.
The interior shots where they're using just candlelight,
Which is a real thing. He did that.
They did cheat on the candles though. They
Sometimes.
had double wicks.
Triple wicks.
They also
hot wax.
they also covered the ceiling in aluminum.
Yeah.
They cheated in other ways too. They did occasionally use outside lights.
Well, because you didn't have
this here, the reason that this is blue is because the film stock that they were using was coloring the electric lights that they used to be more natural, and it was bringing out the blues in the actual sunlight. So that's sunlight that's coming in, and this light and this light.
Well, that just means that they color temperatured for the interior,
Right.
of the and so that's why you get that. But you know what? People make that on purpose now.
Right.
Mhm.
But again, the craft in this movie is incredible.
Yeah.
Like it's the it looks like paintings. Like it literally looks like
100%.
paintings.
It does.
In
Well,
a
that
lot of
Gainsborough
places.
remark I thought was like
It was inspired by paintings, a lot of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
And,
yeah, Kubrick's wife is a art historian.
I mean, this is somewhere between a Where's Waldo and the best like impressionist painting I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
Like this is it's a fascinating thing to watch from that perspective. It's too fucking long.
Yeah.
It's just too
It's
fucking
not long enough.
Oh,
It's
no.
Yeah, no, I gotta disagree. Like I could have watched another hour of this thing.
I have to go to the
was
line
something.
from 24-hour Party People where he shows up with the poster and he's like, it's beautiful, but it's useless.
Mhm.
And nothing that is useless can be truly beautiful. And to me,
You're
this
so fucking wrong. You don't know what you're talking about.
to me, this movie is just it's interminable at a certain point. And I there's a good movie in here. I really feel like there is a very good movie in here somewhere. And I just wish that they'd cut some of it out and brought it down to a point, maybe even like 10 or 15 minutes, like not even necessarily an hour or half an hour, something like that. I just feel like there are so many times that this movie just drags as you're watching it.
I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna back up Tad on this a little bit. Did you ever see Steven Soderbergh made a recut of 2001? Did everyone here see it? It was
No, but I'd
it
be
was-
interested in it.
It was
No, 'cause the
77.
original
It was
perfection.
77 minutes long, and it said everything the original film did. It's Kubrick's style to go long. He likes doing long, thoughtful zoom ins and zoom outs of people just pinwheel-eyed staring off into space. Right? You could probably take this film, and a diligent editor could probably get this down to an hour and a half. And without losing,
I stop there. Go to like 5 minutes.
I disagree wholeheartedly. I think that
Maybe
we're
2
talking
hours.
about when you're talking about. Listen, we can talk about whether we like a film or not, but we can't talk about changing the film because that's not the film.
that's true.
The filmmaker wanted to make this film, and we all know that Kubrick is this. You know, he's a
Deliberate. He's deliberate.
Fine. If we're gonna talk about whether we like the film or not, I don't like the film. It's too
Great.
long.
Great.
It does not. It bored me at multiple points during it, and
This movie never bored me for a second. Even the most I don't know, sort of like moments where you think, oh, this is inconsequential. It was so luscious in a way. It was so vibrant in another way. I felt I was enraptured for the whole thing.
Yeah.
it loses me. It loses my attention at a certain point, at several points, and there are things there are things that I really enjoyed about it. There are some scenes in this movie. The one I just had up, the scene in the tithe barn where they're having the duel,
Yeah,
is so fucking brutal to watch, because neither of those characters wins that scene.
No.
Like
No.
both of those characters come out of it worse. And like that's really interesting. Even the first duel, not the first duel, the one with his dad, but the duel with Captain Quinn, no one wins that scene. Like it's everyone comes out of it worse. Through this whole movie, it seems that every time you feel like someone is about to win something, they lose.
Oh yeah.
And that's a really
yes and no. It's also, there's an element of the Barry Lyndon kind of falls ass backwards into fortune for the first half of the film. And then, and then his life sort of falls apart.
And the film is specifically divided into two halves, which is the rise of Redmond Barry,
right,
and then the fall of Barry Lyndon.
Yeah, it's a bit of a biopic or Scorsese picture in that nature, but there's this level of there's a weird aspect of objectivity to this film in terms of viewership. And there's a coldness, there's a detachment to this whole picture.
The narrator is part of that. The narrator really
gives you departure from the book.
The narrator tells you what's going to happen often. The narrator tells you what's going to happen often before it happens.
Well, that was the thing I was going to bring up. First of all, Kubrick is not the warmest filmmaker, right? So there's that. And so the picaresque idea that this is a reproduction of a 1840.
But he's also unsentimental, and I appreciate it.
But there's a real deliberate, back in the early days of novel writing, they were very deliberate. They would tell you it was going to happen. They would talk about the thing that happened, and they would finish up by
Scott, can I interrupt you for
moralizing about everything that has happened. And that film feels like an old novel. It feels like that he successfully recreated the original novel.
Yeah, like Richardson.
Yeah,
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? Because Jim was about to say something about the narration of the novel.
Yeah, the novel is narrated by Barry Lyndon.
Oh, it's first person.
It's first person, and he's totally an unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
And so that's the biggest departure that Kubrick did.
That's
pretty much it follows the story.
Which is interesting because on Wikipedia it says like maybe the narrator in this movie is unreliable, and I don't feel like that at all.
No, it's very reliable.
The narrator of the movie seems
the narrator in this film has already seen the movie, and he's telling he wanted to have the voice of God.
And I feel like that's a better choice. Like I haven't read the novel, but I do feel like that is a better choice for at least this movie. Like I feel like that character coming in and giving you some sort of background or backstory over top actually does help overall.
My only reservation going into this was I didn't think Ryan O'Neal, I didn't think I could take him seriously, and he dispelled that for me.
I think he does a decent job.
Yeah, me too.
He does. Because I was like, love story? Are you fucking kidding me? Come on.
Yeah.
And then, but let
me jump in here for a second. So the deal was that the only way that Warner was going to let Kubrick make this movie is if he put like an A+.
A high Q.
Yeah. Okay. So
that's
it for
after Love Story, What's Up, Doc, and Paper Moon. Like it was Ryan O'Neal or Robert Redford, and apparently Redford passed. And so
I would have much preferred Redford in this, but
I think Redford made a better villain.
No,
Redford would have played it. Redford would have played it as a good guy, and I don't.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
Well,
Ryan O'Neal understands.
Is a good guy.
Ryan O'Neal understands that he's too attractive for this character.
And also only because he had one film under his belt, he probably felt like he was kind of unmade clay. This film could make me.
I guess my point is
whatever
like he surprised me. He really did a fine job here.
He did, but there's definitely I can feel Robert Evans behind this entire thing. Basically, that's what's going on. It just in terms of like the deals behind the film that made it happen. But they wouldn't let Kubrick do it unless they had an A-list actor in there, and there were restrictions on.
Also,
Harris is the guy who raised the money, right? Yeah. He's the actual producer.
They had a lot of part of this production was shut down because of the NRA was attacking, and they had to
IRA.
leave. I'm sorry,
IRA.
What did I say?
He has his name on the
NRA.
list. Yeah.
That's a
meant
different
IRA.
terrorist organization. They come around later.
They come and they go.
Yeah,
That was a purposeful American faux pas. Yes, but the IRA came in, right, and they had to like leave and then come back and start shooting again, and there was a lot of problems with this production.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're shooting in Ireland during the height of the Troubles, you're gonna have problems.
Yeah,
It turns out.
even in the countryside, apparently.
Don't go to
biggest-
Waterford Castle.
The biggest problem with the production is he wanted to make Napoleon,
Yes,
Yeah.
and
Yes,
they
thank
fucking
you.
pulled the money.
That's true.
Too many
this
extras in
made
that
me
one.
want. This made me want that Waterloo movie so
Yeah.
much.
It
Like,
would have been fantastic.
oh my god, if he had these cameras and this amount of money and time, and he could do fucking Napoleon, it would have been amazing. And you can tell that from the battle scenes that they have.
But I
It's
wouldn't
like
say that-
this is really how this shit happened. You
Yeah.
just have a guy leaning out a window every so often and being like, "Oh, we're getting fucked up." Okay,
I
bang.
would love to see his Napoleon pick as much as anybody, but I don't want to play the woulda, shoulda, coulda game. This is his picture. I think it's a fucking fantastic picture.
And I think that what I like
I
about
agree with you. I'm just saying it's not the picture he originally set out to make.
Of course,
I
he
was
wanted
also-
to make
I thought it was
Napoleon. He wanted to make
fascinating.
Napoleon for like a decade, right?
2 decades.
I thought it was
I think.
fascinating.
His
Just-
entire life.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was
But
one of those
just
things
seeing a film
towards
about
the
the
end
seven-
where he was
about the
like, "I
7
wish I
years-
could go back and do
Yeah.
that."
Just thinking a film about the 7 Years' War, these obscure little battles in Europe, that were happening. And, I don't think that even people back
I love
in
the fact that he shot the German stuff in Germany.
yeah. Well, there's some scenes, there's some like setup scenes where like he's walking along a trail and you see those little onion dome.
Yeah, you
trenches there.
see the
And
typical
it's like,
Southern.
I'm watching
German.
these things and going, how the hell did he do that? Where do you find places like that? Even in the 70s. That must
Oh,
have been.
in rural Bavaria.
I know the scouting must have been intense for this film. I mean,
Yeah.
they're just like.
Also, I think we can equivocally say across the board, all of the actors in this film are just.
And what's her
acting-
name there?
the
The one
acting
who
is
plays
incredible.
the Countess.
It's
who is-
just
the
top
last
notch
thing-
across the board. It's
the
the
last
most
thing you saw
amazing.
her in was Cabaret.
Yeah.
which
Everyone
I
was-
think
every-
she's also excellent.
But
in.
has
everyone
10
was
lines.
so. You know what's great about
Ken,
the performances in this film is that within like 10 seconds of most people on screen, you get exactly who their character is. You get exactly who they are, what they're about. And as they continue to speak and have more screen time, it just solidifies that notion. And I
Well-
think that's really powerful.
And I think this is what Scott was talking to, because it sort of that late 18th century novel, early 19th century novel, that's the sort of thing you're going for. You
Yeah.
have these names that like describe people, like Reverend Runt.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean,
that
his
is true.
name says it all.
Well, I said it's a picaresque novel, and it feels
Which
like
ironically,
yeah,
he is
it's-
tall
so
and
it's-
thin.
it's a
I
little.
know he is.
But
He's not a runt.
but he's still runt like in his like sort of,
He's runt-like
demeanor.
in his spirituality, and that's why they made him a fucking
Also,
priest.
Kubrick.
Yeah, but when they remake this movie, Kylo Ren's gonna play him. So
Well, yeah, actually, that's maybe perfect. Yeah, but Kubrick goes two ways in movies. He has movies where the protagonist is talking his goddamn head off, like Clockwork Orange, and like maybe even Spartacus. And there's ones where they don't say a single goddamn word, like 2001 and Barry Lyndon. Brian O'Neill doesn't have that many
He
lines in
doesn't
this
have that
movie.
much dialogue.
There's almost no dialogue in this film, which is
most of his lines are when he's doing his reports back to his boss.
right.
Yeah.
Marissa Berensen's character had
or
100.
a few when he's talking to his son. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very.
Marissa Berensen's character had 100 words. That was it.
It's
100
10 lines.
words.
I think his 8-year-old son has more dialogue than he has.
Probably. Yeah. So it's interesting how he just kind
Lord Bellington definitely does.
yeah. Oh, was I saying all these little stock actors that Kubrick used before, like
Patrick McGee and an eye
and
patch.
Leonard Rossiter and yeah.
Oh, Leah Rossiter is great.
He is. He's wonderful.
Philip Stone.
Philip
from-
Stone. Yeah.
from
Good stuff.
Shining and Clockwork.
And Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
And what's his name who plays Sir Richard is in a bunch of other stuff too.
Stephen Burkoff, well known.
Burkoff.
Murray
You remember
Melvin.
Clockwork Orange.
Murray
Burkoff
Melvin
is
left
out
doing
Who's the
Devil's-
guy who plays the minister at the end of Clockwork Orange? He's
Yes.
in this
Yes.
too.
Oh
The
yeah,
big
yeah,
tall
that's right,
guy
it
with the
is.
huge
Yeah, yeah.
nose.
Uh-huh.
Also, this is my favorite scene in the movie.
What's
Well,
happening?
the battle scenes are just amazing.
Mhm.
Well, but no, this scene
Oh, this
where,
one.
yeah, this scene where he meets him for the first time, and you have that narration about how, about like hearing a familiar voice and like understanding like you're both stuck outside of your country and stuff like that. And then it ends with him breaking down and being like, I have to tell you the truth. Like, I have to tell you that, you know, I've been set up. I was kidnapped by the army, blah, blah, blah. And he just gets up and walks around and hugs him. Like, it's such a human scene between these two people of like, oh yeah, we're both from the same country and we're both in this weird place where we're stuck in this hierarchy in this other country. And I'm just gonna, I'm a lord, I'm a chevalier, and I'm gonna come up and hug you, my body man, my guy who's gonna come around and pour wine and cheat at cards with me, and just give him a hug. And it's such a good scene.
It is.
In the book, it's his uncle.
Oh really?
Oh,
This is his
interesting.
uncle that he mentions him at the very beginning of the movie that like absconded. So it's his mother's brother.
Oh, I didn't know.
That
Which is
actually
why
would
they're-
make it better. I'm surprised that's not in the
Yeah,
movie.
that's a good. They
Yeah.
both be from, that makes sense. They both be from Berryville, or that area of Ireland, right? That
Well,
makes
and his name is Barry Bally, Barry
Yeah.
Bally.
Uh-huh. Right.
Mm.
Good stuff. No, I hadn't seen it since I was a kid or younger, and I was just impressed by how well it's put together. And it moved along nice. Yeah, it was long, but Kubrick's films are long, and that's just how
It's
it is.
No, there are Kubrick films that aren't long.
The Killing,
Lolita.
Go check. the
that's
running
long.
time.
That's a long film.
Joy and Desire.
Uh-huh.
Lolita,
Flying Padre.
the killing is 98 minutes long.
The Flying Padre is short.
Clockwork Orange
Yeah.
is 220.
But not excessively so. I was very pleased.
But I
Johnny
feel
being
like-
very quiet. I'm guessing you didn't see it.
No, I watched it.
Oh, okay.
I am more or less in Tad's camp. It's, of course, it's beautiful to look at. A lot of flute music, that's for sure.
Oh, the
The
music
chieftain.
sucks in this movie.
Music's terrible. It's grating. It's repetitive. It
No,
uses like the
no,
same.
I
It uses the
disagree.
same three pieces of music over and over and over again.
No, it puts you
And
in
they're
the
shit
place.
to begin with.
20
they're
pieces
shit.
of music in it.
It puts you in the place.
I didn't want
love
to be in the place.
No, we want to be completely, you know, surrounded in this time, in this place. And I thought the music did that
I
beautifully.
thought there were parts that were completely unnecessary, where it was, to me, I was like, is Kubrick doing this as a gag? Because he would jump on the horse and ride somewhere and there was nothing happening. It was just, he's got to go ride to forever, wherever the fuck he was going.
That's the
And
long
it
part.
was like, dun, da, dun, ba, da, ba, da, dun, ba, da, da, dun, ba, da, ba, da, 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 and it was like, this is inappropriate.
And by the time you got there, the music gave you lice.
I was kind of in and out with it.
I had multiple problems with this film. Ryan O'Neill's character is, yes, obviously he's not meant to be a hero. He's nothing of the kind. But it just, in terms of plotting, he gets so many fucking lucky breaks. It's like, why is he so good at fighting, and why is that giant guy so bad at fighting? Why is he so good at sword fighting? We've never seen him until he
Well,
gets into
that's
the.
what I kind of loved about him.
Okay,
It's
I
like
guess
what
you could either love that or hate it. And to
Well,
me,
no,
it's
like
just
no,
like,
that's what Tad and I were talking about earlier. Is like the whole first half is him falling ass backwards into fortune, and then the last half
Absolutely.
of this, and then the last half of this picture though is him completely losing all of it.
okay, so the
And
guy's got,
it's-
the guy's got,
that's-
listen,
that's
the guy's
darkly
got nothing
comical,
going
actually.
for him. The guy's got nothing going for him except a nice profile. And basically he makes eyes at the widow.
He is
across the
very
table.
good looking.
He's very
He
good
is.
looking. He makes eyes at the widow across the table. And the next scene is wordless because it was unimportant to Kubrick to show how this seduction took
She's not a
place.
widow yet.
Okay, widow to be. And he just walks out onto the terrace and she turns around and now they're kissing. Okay. It's everything came to him so fucking easy.
Mhm.
You know, if
That's
except
on
for the-
purpose. That's on purpose.
the highwaymen robbed him at the beginning. That was
That was a marvelous scene, might I add.
yeah,
was a
that
good
was
scene.
a fantastic.
Also,
scene.
the movie really for me picked up in the last half hour with that unbelievably great duel scene.
Oh yeah.
which had been building. Admittedly, that was built up because the characters were established and we knew what the grievances were.
Right.
That's why that thing was so fraught with emotion, and it was really beautiful and
But as much as you didn't care about,
well played scene.
as much as you feel one way or another about Barry, please, someone else come on my team right now and just tell me how much you despised that older child, though, in some way, shape.
Yeah, but he had legit grievances.
legitimate
They had
man.
legitimate
He was
reasons.
right.
to
the
piss
actual
off.
he's
But
the
he's an
actual
asshole.
protagonist of this film.
He's
I know,
right,
but I
pretty
still,
much.
but maybe,
Right.
maybe that's how Kubrick worked on me, because I despised his face.
Well, no,
And
let's
the
back, no,
peacock.
let's back up one big step. Why is it, do you think that Barry Lyndon lost everything in this film? What is this a Victorian moral story, or do you think that he made a mistake somewhere?
Well, he made a mistake.
He
listening to
did
his-
the
He
usual
never-
mistake.
he never had
spent money that he
anything in the
didn't
first
have.
place.
Because it was all
was
great.
lucky.
It was luck and great moves all the way up to a certain point. Then
But his mom got in his
his
head.
luck literally
name
turns over.
one great move that he made. He didn't make any moves.
Oh,
Telling-
come on.
telling
how
the
about,
Chevalier-
how about
no.
jumping ship? How about jumping ship with the Chevalier and letting
Yeah,
them get
telling
that?
Chevalier-
Getting out of
marrying that
Prussia.
woman
That was
a
great.
move.
Grabbing the horse while those two guys were in the river.
Yeah.
Like-
Just
Oh,
get,
yeah,
get
okay.
the hell out of the British Army. That was one thing that was good.
carrying the general out of the
Yeah.
burning building.
Yeah, that-
Like,
Yeah,
like,
that was
he
good.
he makes good moves at various points.
He's an opportunist.
Right.
But
Yeah.
what happened to
Right,
him? That's the
he's
question.
not. That's a
One
good
of
way
the
to
best
put it, Chris.
opportunists I've
Yeah.
ever seen.
He is an opportunist. He's
Absolutely.
He's an 18th century hero,
Yeah, he is. He is.
where a
No,
bunch
no,
of
no,
stuff
no.
happens and it's bad.
I
but
think
good.
hero is a stretch, but I think Chris is right. He sees opportunity, he takes it. He's not going to go out of his way to do anything special or great, but if he sees an opportunity, he's right. He doesn't flinch.
And
And
I
if
think
you
as a
think about it,
protagonist, that's
He's
a little
18th
dull.
century. He's 18th century Elon Musk.
That's dull.
He
It's
had
dull.
he had
But here's the thing,
he
here's
had,
the thing,
he had
John.
an apartheid emerald mine handed
How
to
many-
him,
how
and it
many-
was like,
how
I'm
many-
gonna go start PayPal and Tesla.
Yeah.
Like
But how many
that's who he is.
How many films, John, have we seen about protagonists and opportunists that are not like this man? I actually think he's not dull, strictly because he's unlike any protagonist that we ever see on screen and on film.
He just seems unworthy to me. It's
Of
like-
course, I think that's part of the point. I think Kubrick knows he's unworthy.
Yeah, I do
I think
too.
everyone knows he's
I
unworthy
agree.
of what he's doing.
The
But yet-
stepson certainly does.
Yeah,
there is a point.
But I still found myself rooting for him off and on.
off and
There
on.
is there
Yeah,
is a
off and on.
point. There is
Yeah.
a point where this is Macbeth, right? Like there's a point at which he is the usurper. He is the king who doesn't belong on the throne, and his
Right.
stepson is Macduff.
Right.
And what does he do? He comes in, he shoots him in the
That-
leg,
that's a
and he
good
says,
analogy.
"You get 500 guineas a year if you fuck off."
Right.
Fuck off and never come back. And if you step back into this country, that 500 guineas a year is gone.
I
And what
looked
does
it
he
up.
do?
You'll be arrested, and you'll be
18th
arrested.
century was about $87,000.
It's a
Yeah,
pretty-
and
also-
what does he and what does he
that's
do
such
when he
a-
goes what does he do when he goes to Europe? He goes back to being a gambler and he sucks at it.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's the thing about the question of like,
Because the
why,
Chevalier was the real gambler.
but why
Right.
would-
He
why
was
did-
the cheater.
he was a cheater. Yeah, he was the but whatever it was, the body man.
He's
basically.
not good at anything except for
But what?
making the best of opportunity.
But his
Lying.
luck is
Lying.
is luck in the middle of the
But he
film.
is a good fighter, though.
Flips
And he
like a
did good.
switch. He goes from doing everything great to doing everything bad.
And he
Because-
gets better and he gets
Because
better
I
at
think
lying
it's
through
almost
the
like he
course of the
starts
movie.
believing, like by the time we get to the scene where he's blowing smoke in his bride's face,
uh-huh.
it's clear that now he's starting to like maybe believe that,
That
no,
was
I got here on talent
He's
or
believing in his own hype, right?
Thank
Right.
you. That's
Yeah,
exactly
that-
that's
that
probably
Makes him
his
even more
downfall,
like
right?
Elon Musk.
that was a dick move.
now he believes that he should have been here all along, and there's the
No,
problem.
That
That's
is a
why the
pride
second
goeth
half is
before the
such a
fall.
fall.
Is that the lesson of this film? Pride goeth before the fall.
No, the message of this movie is that history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, you know. It is-
Also, I will always give it up to a movie that burns a structure for real.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
That's that.
like you set this fucking building on fire, didn't you?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
There's
it was
three or
Iowa.
four
Sacrifice,
Irish
right?
people. There are 3 or 4 Irish people back here who are like, why the fuck are they burning that? We could have used that. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
That would fit 9 families. What the
And
hell are you
also,
doing?
and also,
The English
production
took
company's
all the
like,
trees.
you're
This
getting
is the
paid.
only
Shut the
tree left in
fuck
Ireland.
up.
This one.
Well, I'd do thumbs at this point because I think.
Well,
we kinda
no.
covered-
I want Jim to finish, and then I haven't.
Oh, yeah,
even
take it,
gone
Jim.
yet, really.
Yeah, so the first time I saw it, I was sort of disappointed with it back in the 80s, I guess it was, late 70s. But I've really grown to like it. Kubrick has a habit of either having famous actors forced upon him or choosing them. There's Tom Cruise in
Jack
the
Nicholson.
last flick.
Eyes wide shut.
Eyes Wide Shut. There's Ryan O'Neal, who's not my first choice, but he also has movies where he has George C. Scott and Peter Sellers playing like 3 or 4 parts, and I just think he did a really good job with this movie, and I've always liked the fact that he gets away with it. Part of it is that he and Harris had this partnership, and they just made movies, and they made movies on basically their own call, their own dime.
Well, it made an impression on Ryan O'Neal. He named his kid Redmond.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Also, I just want to point out that what is his name? Leon Vitali, who
Yes.
played young
Lord Bullington.
or old
Lord
Bullington.
Yeah.
Old Bullington
Lord Bullington. Yeah.
was the older version.
He quit his acting career to be Kubrick's right hand for decades.
Yeah. And
There's a
his
movie about it.
and
Which character did that?
and his casting
Hey,
director.
the son.
There's a movie called The Film Worker, made in 2018, that is
Wait,
all about Leon Vitali.
the older the son that shot him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the guy that I fucking hated him so that goddamn mouth. I
Leland
want to
Kubrick
punch it
apparently.
a million fucking times.
Right.
He literally quit acting.
I read
became-
about this. Yes,
Became
he
a
did.
production assistant for
Yeah.
Kubrick, and also casting
like his
director
whole life.
on multiple other movies,
And supervised the
including
transfers of his
including
movies.
Eyes Wide Shut. He
Oh.
picked Tom Cruise
Yeah.
for Eyes Wide Shut. Like,
Yeah.
No,
Interesting.
that's interesting. I always assumed that when it was the other way around, I thought that Tom Cruise was so big that he picked
There's a movie
Kubrick.
about this, guys.
Yeah.
I want to say, yes, I heard about that.
Worker. The Film Worker came out in 2017 or 2018.
Yes.
Vitali.
Well, yeah.
he
that sounds
also
interesting.
picked Vincent D'Onofrio for Full Metal Jacket.
Well,
like,
that
think
is-
about that.
Oh,
That's a good choice.
yeah.
Think about all of the acting
Before-
choices in Full Metal Jacket, and he cast all of them because
I
he
just
was
wanna
so
say-
impressed with Kubrick working on this
does
movie
anyone-
that he
I
was
don't-
like, "I'm yours forever."
Before we do thumbs and before Chris,
Whoa.
I know Chris
Yeah,
is
my
gonna
corner.
go. Chris is gonna go. This is his pick. I just want to say one thing real quick, which is I feel like we've seen so many of these historical dramas, these big sweeping epics, like this one. Thank you, Chris, for just like, I feel this is one that I had never seen. It's been on my list forever, and I feel like, love it or hate it, this one was different. It's different from the ones that we all see and experience all the time. And I think that's a positive thing.
Yeah, if they did
Definitely
it,
not
Hear,
designed
hear,
to summon
hear,
up. It's
hear.
not designed to summon up the usual emotions that a movie, a sweeping historical epic, is usually designed to do.
True.
So that's
if Ken Burns,
that's my last 2 cents, and I'll give it
No,
to Chris.
it's almost
if Ken
intimate as a
Burns,
film.
if Ken Burns did a 7-year war documentary, the backgrounds of this movie would be what it moves across while they're reading like letters home. Like it really does look like that.
But let's let Chris go. Let's let
Chris, take it.
So Kubrick is like top 4 or 5 for me. And
Oh yeah, same here.
what I find interesting is that, like, I probably see 1 or 2 of his movies at least once a year, and I kind of got like the ones that I really like in rotation. And like, I think Clockwork's probably my favorite, followed closely by 2001. But Jim brought, you guys brought up Full Metal Jacket. That's a movie that I really didn't like the first time I saw it.
Wow.
That movie for me started to really kind of come together about the 14th or 15th time I've seen it, because that's a movie I will now come
Oh, you
around
stuck
to.
with it.
Well, I was in the Tad camp with that one, where I thought the first half was great and the second half was
It's 3 movies, guys. It's not
3 movies,
first half.
exactly right.
It is 3
However,
different
and they're all
movies.
great. However, for some weird reason, Lyndon and Eyes Wide Shut and Lyndon are like the ones I've seen the least. And having now just watched this, like this goes back into the rotation for me, because there are so many scenes where my jaw was on the ground, not just because like, so I got the Criterion Blu-ray, and like, I don't know about you guys, you buy these Blu-rays, it's got like a whole disc of making of shit. 99 times out of 100, I will never watch that stuff. I watched this one because we haven't even mentioned Ken fucking Adam and the production design on this movie.
Right.
Like if he wasn't already godlike genius for James Bond movies and like frigging Dr. Strangelove, like when you hear what he had to go through to make this movie impressive, then there's a whole thing about how, just as Scott pointed out, like trying to make this whole movie look like a painting, like and the amount of thought that went into, and like you're watching going, just looks like every fucking art museum like I've ever been to that's got paintings from this century. And you're always like, I don't know, but you guys, you sit in a museum and you're like making up stories about what's going on when like this image was created. And now I kind of know, like that. And
well, no, I did read about how on some of these locations they got a lot of pushback from the you know, the owner, like the people of the, they're like, you can't fucking light candles in here, you can't put like you can't fucking put
this scene from, like, for me, everything from the point where he walks,
that is one of those beautiful,
it's like a Rembrandt,
all the way until the end of the duel. I was like holding my breath, because first I was like, damn, this looks fucking crazy. And then yes, that scene was so well.
That almost looks like a Caravaggio painting.
There's also a couple of scenes outside these long fucking vistas, where you actually have the clouds going over, lighting changing during the scene while they're playing it in one take.
Which also hillsides full of like hedgerow fields. I mean, where the fuck you find that with no modern roads in it? It's
Ireland, and a lot of it's Ireland.
But part of it, though, I have to admit, it's like some starts with the candles with the triple wicks and like that. They were good, but they were also kind of mushy. You could tell that that lens was at the limit.
Well, it's 2 millimeters from the film.
They were filming the focus puller was literally doing
he's at like 0.7.
Yeah.
And he's trying to make, and he's got real candles, and he's got fucking aluminum foil on the ceilings, which they hated. The museums were like, do not do that. He's like, I'm doing it.
Okay. And then just to say it, I mean, like, you know, Ryan O'Neal for me was just kind of like if I had one thing, it's like, sometimes he's
like a roadie.
But Marissa Berenson, I'm sorry, like the last scene of this. So I went back after I finished the movie the next morning, and I rewatched
when she's writing out the.
He just stares off in the middle distance for like a good 30 seconds.
God,
that was pretty good.
There ended up being an emotional punch at the end, because go back and and I'm sure I will catch all of this stuff like the 15th or 16th time I see this movie, which I will definitely do. But like she, for as little lines as she has, the amount of eye acting going on with that character is crazy.
I wish I wasn't so tired at that point. Like I really wish I wasn't so tired at that point, because that was good. But it just to me, it was flat to me, because at that point I was like, oh, God, I've sat through this whole fucking thing.
No,
like,
I agree with you, Chris.
No, she was a tragic character. She really was.
Who does this anymore? I looked. Who still does this?
Michael Mann sometimes.
There's some people, right? I mean, Tarantino.
Don Hertzfeld.
Tarantino had 8 producers on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Okay, you're right.
Also, Tarantino
producers
only makes movies to satisfy his foot fetish at this point in time. So like, that's.
Robert Rodriguez does that.
I feel like that's something Kubrick would have done too, though, for some reason.
Robert Rodriguez does that.
Joint also qualifies.
I also this is one of those things where I run into that quote by
the producer thing is the producer thing is the oddball thing there.
The only producer.
Because there's a lot of writer directors, but to produce it that's rare.
Well,
I run into that quote by Siskel and Ebert where Gene Siskel says, is this movie more interesting than a documentary of the actors having lunch together? And like, yes, this movie is, but I would still probably rather watch a documentary about making this movie than I would rather watch the movie.
Well, that tells me a lot about you.
Like watching, like I feel like
Which is that you don't like cinema.
I feel like the making of this movie would be so fucking fascinating to watch.
It is fascinating.
But this is a fucking piece of cinema, and you're talking bullshit right now.
Hold on, hold
whatever.
on. Now, mind you, hold on. This is the 70s, and Kubrick.
I'm calling you out, bitch.
Hold on, no, that's okay. Hold on, Kubrick was a double super auteur.
Do you want to watch movies or do you want to watch YouTube videos?
The thing is, mind you, that Kubrick took all 3 credits for this, right? But he also took credit for designing the effects for 2001.
Well,
which he kind of didn't do.
No,
but
Jeff Trumbull.
Yeah, no, it was Con Peterson and Wally Beavers and the other guys. But anyway, he was able to stretch his authorship a lot further than people do now.
I like genius. 2 big thumbs up.
All right, same here.